Well, we're back. I didn't have almond anywhere. And petrichor was missing. What were you missing?
I was missing sour cream, apparently.
That is important stuff to have because it makes the frosting different from everything else, and it's beautiful. But this video is just going to be how to prepare the cookies to get them in the oven and cook them. So we take our wonderful plate of dough that is quite cold, thankfully, and cover it with this cellophane, and it's ready to go. And then I take parchment paper and I put it on my lovely cookie sheet. It's a really nice new one. It's Williams Sonoma. I love it. But the parchment paper makes it so you don't have near the mess afterwards. I mean, there's a little bit, but it takes care of most of it. So it's extremely helpful. All right. Set your oven to 250 because this cooks at a fairly low heat. And we're going to cook them for 25 minutes per batch. While it is cooking is actually when we're going to do the frosting. And so that'll be a second video or a separate video and you'll get that. I don't really know if this is day 9 continued or if it's part of day 10. I think I'm going to do gift wrapping tonight when I get home. So I'm a little confused.
You can do a, 9.5. It's fine.
Day 9.5. Here we go. All right. So what I like to use, where are you, is a butter knife. Makes everything easier on the dough. Oh, and most important, saucer, paper plate, anything that can hold white granulated sugar like this, and that your fork can push inside because you're going to need to get the tines of the fork in the sugar so that you can push down the cookies. That's key. All right. So how are you doing in petrichor?
We're good.
You with us? All right, so you need, remember these are sandwich cookies, they're 2 layers. So you try and make them match. I'm going to take off my ring because that would be messy and dirty. Who knows if it's clean, even though I've washed it, there's room for stuff to get stuck in a ring. All right, so I cut the first thing, the first row. As you can tell, it kind of cuts there. Now I like to cut off the triangles at the end and just make small ones that kind of fit together. Some people save those as extra for if they have a small one. I just take them. Cold hands are in my favor here because it doesn't melt. If you have warm hands, I do apologize. This is going to be hard. My littlest niece has a really hard time with it because her hands are so warm, which, you know, is good everywhere else. You take those, you do a quick roll. The less time you have to touch them, the better because they won't melt. Makes a little ball. And I put them down. I do rows or columns. So I do columns of pairs. My oven's ready. And then I do another set of columns of pairs so that they are grouped accordingly to size because that helps. And then I like to cut the row and make sure that the cut cookie dough squares look like they will fit kind of similar as well because that helps. So like these 2 squares, triangles, whatever they are, will make a pair. We're going to roll them and I go an entire row or sometimes a whole cookie sheet before I do the fork and the sugar. You can do 1 and 1 if you want, but I've found it goes a little faster and it's a little easier. Do apologize for anyone watching who has, you know, those moments like, oh, her hair is down because my hair is down, but I pulled it out of my face and I'm trying to keep it back. Got to head out to party soon. It's the Christmas season, so you got to have lots of fun. At least I prefer to, you know, lots of celebrating. And of course, I like to say, you know, celebrating Jesus. Merry Christmas. Christmas. But here we go. I've got a couple pairs here, so we're just going to keep going through. And I think I'm going to cut all the way through and do the whole cookie sheet. And then go ahead and I'll do the smashing down of the balls. How are you doing it in petrichor?
Yes, I think I agree with your style. That's what I usually do when I make peanut butter cookies. So I think that sounds like a good idea.
It is, and it is very similar to peanut butter cookies, except for sometimes if your hands get warm, the dough is a little stickier.
Yeah.
That's a little large, but oh well. Sometimes what I've done is I will cut the dough in about 1 inch long thing, and then I'll cut that in half, and that makes my pairs.
Yeah.
So I cut about yay big, and then I break them in half, and that'll make a pair that you know is going to do it. Now you don't want these to get too big. I'm getting towards the bigger side. The perfect size is really a marble to just slightly larger than a marble. You don't want to get the big boys because it's just not the same thing. The ratio is a little off and it doesn't quite taste the same. Now, as we're talking about ratios, I'm kind of weird when I'm eating these things. I like to take small nibbles and make them last forever. They're bite size. But then I don't eat as many, I hope. Because otherwise, in Christmas, there's a lot of good food. In fact, sometimes come January, I like to say, hey, no sugar or sweets for a while. Take a month or two off, maybe until Lent starts, which is a little ironic because Lent is when people give stuff up.
That's all right.
But it kind of
And you
resets.
gave up something new.
Yeah, I did. And then I usually don't give up food related items if I do Lent. Because I usually pray about it and feel like there's something else in my heart. I know my dad gave up TV one time. It's an interesting time.
How'd that go for him?
I don't think he enjoyed it, and he's only done it once. But he did spend a lot more time with God and reading the Bible. So I think it was a win. I cut this row a little smaller because my cookies were a little too big. Cut the tips off. How are yours rolling?
They are rolling slowly but surely. It's been a long time since I've baked. I haven't really, since we moved up to higher altitude, it's been harder to bake, so I haven't bothered.
I'm torturing her.
Yeah, it's okay. Well, I will be happy getting access to the 2-layer cookies.
Yes, it is worth it.
Get us meh. Okay. Cool. Okay. Now, do you immediately put it on the sugar on the fork?
I do. It's not really going to stick.
Okay.
But I do that and then I immediately go over and then I might have to dip again. The most thing is the sugar is stopping it from sticking. So when you push your fork in, it doesn't stick. And B, it's adding a little sugar to the top, which is good because these cookies don't have much sugar inside, but there is the frosting, so you don't really miss it. What I'm also going to say is that the recipe calls for the normal crosshatch.
Okay.
I have found that if you just do the one touch of the fork and you're keeping it pretty thick. I mean, my cookie stays about yay thick. I don't know if you can see. Because when I go thinner, they break more. When I do the crosshatch, it's more likely to break. It looks pretty, but it's more likely to break. So these just get, one press. I don't do the crosshatch.
Okay.
But you are welcome. Do what you prefer.
Yeah, well, both are options.
Yep. I've just found from all the years of making them, because this is my go-to. I help with other stuff, but this is mine. But it goes quicker this way. And sometimes I find that even though I cut them together, they match with others and I match them up. That might be me being a little crazy, but sandwiches are easier to make if the cookies are the same size.
Fair enough.
And some people like to just throw a bunch on there and then hunt and peck for the ones that are the right size. Maybe they like the surprise, or maybe they like to go hunting or searching. They might like puzzle games. I just like to know what I got and do it. That's how I roll.
Fair enough.
I think I usually get about 2 to 2.5 cookie sheets doing this way. And I do pretty even pairs, actually. So far I'm aligned. So see how many I actually get on this cookie sheet. I'm up to the right temperature. I love it that it only takes 25 minutes. And I love it that it's a low temperature because sometimes, even though it's Christmas, or I'm making another time here, it can be warmer than it should be because it's not always winter temperatures everywhere. And so it's very nice and helpful to have it where the oven doesn't have to go super high in case it's a warm time or you're making it in summer, because you make these anytime, even though Christmas is wonderful. I made them recently for my niece and I made them orange and black. Oh, and she added a brown. We did 3 colors. It's amazing. All right.
Cool.
I've got 14 14 pairs.
Okay.
Yeah, 14 pairs. So this will be 14 cookies, 28 cookies, 14 sandwiches. I'm going to wash my hands real quick because they're very greasy, and then I will do the fork, and then we'll put them in. How's yours looking?
Well, we'll see what happens when they bake, but they're looking okay. And I did not, in fact, do the cross. I just did one. So
Yeah. I'm going to tilt this. You see them? See there. So pretty. All right, now I'm going to take it, dip it. Important piece here for beginners. After I use all this, I might have a little bit of extra sugar in this container. You know, and I know people don't like to waste stuff. So what should I do with that added sugar?
Eat it.
That would be one option. There is no egg in this, so you could be tempted, but there is flour, which is raw. So if you were to eat it, it would have to be heated. And you are going back and forth and touching it. So there is definitely pieces in there. Some people I've seen might think they could put it back with theirs, and that fills me with horror because then you're putting all of that into your actual sugar container, and it can grow and it can make you sick. So use it in a recipe you're going to heat it or toss it. Sorry, Grandma. Actually, I think even my grandmother would agree with me on that. She's got that very careful, save all the money, scrape the yolk out of the shell personality. She doesn't like to be sick. Kind of missing my Christmas music here. I know Chris Hamilton music had some really good Christmas music on last night. Did you catch it?
Yeah, I was gonna put Christmas music on. I even turned on my TV ready to go, but there's so much more going on.
Yes. It's a tighter day right now.
And you know, sometimes it's like, yeah, sure, I'm off work now because of that, but that doesn't mean all things are not done.
That is true. I have done my cookies. You kind of see them.
Ta-da!
See how big they are. It's very important.
Don't jump.
So now I'm going to go put these in the oven for 25 minutes. Reminder, use oven mitts, take them out. It will be hot. Yes, I sometimes I'm tempted to not use an oven mitt in the oven. Okay, I don't know. All right, I'm going to go through this in and put a timer on because as much as I think I'll remember, I won't. Careful, the parchment slides. All right, so I'm going to end this video and go straight into the frosting. Or should we just do this and frosting in the same video so we only have one others, which is putting it together?
Sure. Let's roll right to frosting, baby.
All right, frosting. Wax paper out, protect, because powdered sugar goes everywhere and it makes a mess. Do remember, of course, as always, to put your dough back in the fridge so that it is ready when you do another batch. Unless it's like 30 or 40 degrees in your house, and then it doesn't matter. All right, I like to use cereal bowls. So I do cereal bowls. Our recipe calls for one pan of frosting, but guess what? I make two, and I make one green, and I go vivid green, and I make one red, vivid red. So those are my suggestions. Do it as you will, but I like frosting. I do have a certain name of a sugar person, but we'll leave that off maybe. But all right, here we go. What?
You enjoy your sugar. It's fine.
Me too. I enjoy my sugar. I also work out a lot, and we work out on Supernatural and walk and hike, and I'm active. If you're gonna have a lot of sugar, you gotta be really active. And it gives you energy, so it's okay. All right, so frosting calls for 1 tablespoon butter as the first ingredient. And what I do with that is I take 1 tablespoon of butter, and remember, guys, this has to be the stick. You can't do the tub and try and scrape it. it's a different consistency and it's a different type of butter, so it's not going to be the same measurement.
Fine.
I didn't see she was doing that.
So the question is though.
Oh, be right back. I have to grab my butter. Oh, no, there it is. Because I can't use my Kerrygold for this. It's better on bread. You know? All right. One. Measure it before and then cut it, of course.
An engineer's granddaughter, I must say, measured twice, only cut once.
I go across the line in it where it's lined up and so that it's in there. Then I can't pop the goodness. So I do agree. Do not eyeball this. It won't be the same.
Would not go well for you. Whoa.
And that's a good start of Christmas. 30 seconds in the microwave. More than that, and it will pop.
Here, little. I have something to cover it with. Aha!
Usually use Daisy squeeze sour cream because it's easier to measure. So 20 seconds is enough today. So we do 1 tablespoon butter, 3 teaspoons. It says cream or sour cream, but I'm going to level with you guys. It's sour cream. Don't even go the other way. Don't try. You will regret. And the one thing I don't want is for you to regret at Christmas. Regret later. All right, I've got these new little metallic measuring cups or measuring spoons, and they're really fun. So I've got my pretty little 1 teaspoon, which is 5 milliliters. And I'm going to put 3 teaspoons of sour cream in my melted butter. And do make sure you scrape it all out because you need it all. And this is where if you use the Daisy squeeze, it kind of puts it in like a little ball and it stays in that little ball and it's very easy to pop right out. So you don't have as much of a mess and it's easier to get everything out. Sometimes I might go a little over on the sour cream. I never go under, but if it's a little more, like it's over the top, it's an extra full, that's okay. Here comes the third one. All right. Then it's 1 cup of powdered sugar. And then 1 teaspoon of almond extract and then food coloring. And let's be honest, I use a lot of food coloring. So let's go to the flour. That is first.
Flour?
What?
I'm like, flour? I missed something. I got a phone call.
Powdered sugar. Let's go to the powdered sugar.
Okay, phew. All right. I was like, please.
You're like, no, we don't use flour in our frosting. Are you crazy? Yeah, sometimes.
Okay, you did sour cream before you're doing the sugar though, yeah?
Okay, so I've got the 1 tablespoon melted butter. You can use margarine. And 3 teaspoons or 3 full teaspoons. You can go a little over of sour cream. And then it's 1 cup of powdered sugar. Now that's a little hard sometimes to mix in. So I do about a half. I'm going to measure with a 1/2 cup and I'll pour it in kind of slowly so that I can mix it. And towards the end, it gets to where it's like, I don't know if I'm going to get it all in. And that's where the almond extract, putting that in at that point, and the food coloring really come in handy. So a bit of trivia for you. Do you know that it's important to cook a recipe to put ingredients in the order that they are listed?
Depending on the recipe. Yes.
Yes, a lot of the times you can get away with it, but it is meant to be that way. It's not just like, you know, pirate guidelines or something.
I mean, it could be that too, but it doesn't go as well with baking.
Now I will say I've got my great grandmother's pumpkin pie recipe, and I, through a mistake of my own, I've started doing my own thing with it. What I actually do, Tiff, don't tell her. Oh, she's not around, but she's here. If she was here, you wouldn't tell her, right? And Patrick, or
What?
if great grandma was here, you would not tell her.
No, of course. Well,
I will admit, what I do is I make the entire pumpkin pie, and I pour it in on top of the crust. Everything's ready to go in. And one time I did this, and I forgot to put sugar. So, I mean, I could make savory pumpkin pie, but I added it, and I was lazy. I didn't want to try and get it out and clean the mess. So I just added it in there, and I gently went over it. Now you accidentally score the crust a little bit, even with it trying your best. So a little of the sugar gets on the crust, and then it kind of goes in a slightly different, it's just a little different in layers, and you can feel it and taste it differently. Like there's no granules, so it's not crunchy, but the flavor is just a little brighter. And I do that on purpose now, every year after that mistake.
yay, happy accidents.
Yeah. I'm sure that chefs would look at that and be like, no, don't do it. You know, show the humanity, but it tastes good.
Oh, that's why I prefer Bob Ross. Happy accidents are good things.
I agree. Now I've got almost a full half cup in here, and it's mixing good with the rest of my half cup. And then we'll go on to the next half cup. I like to use, you might notice that I've got a small spoon here. It's like one I use for yogurt. It's kind of smaller compared to the others. It's a little pointed. That is a little easier for me to drop globs of frosting onto the cookie. You can also use the frosting like the bags. That works really well, but I'm lazy and I didn't want to have to clean one afterwards. So I'm going to go with my tried and true and be a little messy, but if you want it to be more perfection, you might want to do that so you can control it and pipe it onto the cookie delicately, because if you stick it and pick it up, the cookie will break. But that's how we do this.
I will probably pipe, but I do not have a like standard piping bag, so I'm just going to use the Ziploc.
Yes, oh, that would work. Thanks to, I believe she goes by She Summits.
Oh yes.
We have an entire set here.
Ah.
So we're taking care of, she knows of the addiction to sugar in this house.
She knows you well.
She does. She said she's known me her whole life. She's amazing. There we go. Mix that in a little more than I wanted. All right, we're starting to get a little thick. It's getting a little hard, but again, remember, you've still got to add a teaspoon of almond, so that adds more liquid. And you still got to add food coloring unless you like it plain white, which then I'm going to think you're one of those people that do 12 Days of Christmas. You know, come on, use a little bit of imagination. Note, I actually do like the song 12 Days of Christmas. I'm just having fun. And 12 Days of other things. We fit it to some of our stories, and some of our friends have fit it to some of the things that we joked about. Quite fun.
I mean, and there's parodies all over the place of 12 Days of Christmas, and usually those are my favorites. Like, yes. I couldn't even tell you what the actual 12 Days of Christmas, most of them are, but I could tell you all the parody ones that I listed.
Yes, what is your favorite parody?
That's hard. That's hard because there's so many that I like.
We'll just do a top.
But probably it's a toss up, I think, between Jeff Foxworthy and Thomas Sanders. So Jeff Foxworthy is 12 Redneck Nights of Christmas, I think, something like that.
Oh, that would be fun.
That is fun. And then
Thomas
Thomas
a little extra almond. I do apologize. Oh, you can't smell it.
Yeah, you know, that's the cool thing about doing this over the internet, is that you can do the things that I'm allergic to, and I can do the things that you're allergic to, and we don't kill each other.
I love it. Ooh, and see, mixing that, I don't know that it shows, but mixing that almond in it gives us a really good consistency. And then forgot to stick the food coloring out. Take it into my baking drawer because I have a baking drawer. Who doesn't have a baking drawer?
Me, but then
That makes
I had
sense.
one when I lived in lower altitude. So
Yeah, there we go. I didn't count the green, guys. I did it a good squirt until it looked really deep, and then I start mixing it. Because the one thing I know is I don't want pastels at Christmas. That's an Easter thing. I want vivid greens and reds, you know, Hallmark colors.
Hallmark colors.
Well, if you watch any Hallmark, the decorations they have there, it is vivid red and vivid green. Like some people might see this and think it's okay. No, I need more.
That's so, to be fair, green is your favorite color. So, you know.
Yes, and I do like the deeper colors. I'm not one for light colors really anytime. So it does make sense.
Ouch.
I almost thought I have this for the red. I almost bought one for the green.
Oh,
Yes, I wouldn't mess around at all. Oh, so I think that would be the frosting. And I'm going to sign off because we have people about to walk in. So frosting, is yours looking good?
mine is looking very good. I just need to add color to it and make it look pretty.
Oh, food color. And you already added the almond. Don't forget.
I got it. It's right here.
All right. So we will see you back here tonight. You won't know because I'm posting later, and we will put together the cookies.